Our early kickoff, Arvin Sidhu, sees Chelsea versus Crystal Palace. Frank Lampard's side have just 4 points on the board after 3 games. They've spent a lot of money in the transfer window. I mean, for me, all eyes on Thiago Silva in this one. Do you reckon he'll be able to keep Wilf Zaha quiet?
She's gonna struggle with that pace, really, isn't he, Ross? But I mean, it's been a tough week or so for Lampard. You ship 3 goals against West Bromwich Albion. You get knocked out in the cup. It's not going as smoothly as he would have wanted. There's pressure slowly creeping up. It doesn't matter if they go out and they hammer Crystal Palace. It doesn't matter if they score a goal from a deflection. The most important bit for Lampard right now is you're at a home game against Palace. It's a London derby. You need to win. Regardless how you do it, you need to win. And that's without saying, because the longer this goes on, the more it's going to come on to him. And you can see it already in his demeanor. He's not going out there. He's not trying to get his players up. At times, he's just seated on his chair. He doesn't seem very interested. So Lampard has to get the win this weekend, because if he doesn't, I don't think so it's going to work well. Obviously, there are some things that are improving for them. Pulisic as well as Hakim Ziyech look like they are both coming close to appearing this season. Werner got off the mark on the week as well. He scored even though they were knocked out. They would hope that he continues to score. But yeah, I assume that they would win this weekend, but just barely, because performances haven't been great so far.
The opponents then, Craig Marias, Crystal Palace. I mean, they won away at Old Trafford first game. They can only be the second team, I believe, to win their second away game at Stamford Bridge, then completing the Old Trafford Stamford Bridge in your first 2 away games. I think Sunderland last did that way back.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a massive feat. Don't get me wrong. They've started the season off well. Obviously, took advantage of Man United's lack of preparation coming into the season. I thought played very well in that game. Followed that up, but I think I think it was Southampton they played straight after that, and they got a good win. I don't know. I don't know what to make of this Crystal Palace side. I mean, for me, they're your typical yo-yo side. You'll get a couple of good results, and then they'll be followed up, with results that you don't expect them to lose, but they'll lose. I still think there's question marks defensively about them. I know that they've had a few injuries here and there. Sakho's back, but he's nowhere near the player that Liverpool signed early on after his injuries. Offensively, I think they have improved. Getting back Shuai on loan, I think it's a massive coup for them. But the future of Wilf Zaha will still loom over them, and I think Roy Hodgson can't wait for Monday to be over, because until that transfer window is closed, Wilf Zaha, I mean, we all know he wants to leave Crystal Palace, and he has bigger aspirations than that, which is fair enough for what he's given the club. But until that transfer window is over, Roy Hodgson won't be sleeping easily.
Yep.
And as we've seen as well, don't be surprised if you suddenly see Wilf Zaha's name not on the team sheet, because if there is some negotiations that's going on, and we're very close to the transfer deadline, if a club does come in for him and there are negotiations, don't be surprised if Crystal Palace and Roy Hodgson decide to leave him out, and this is just to protect the asset, which is Wilf Zaha, to prevent him from injury. So that wouldn't surprise me. I just quickly, I know we don't have a lot of time, but I just want to touch on Chelsea. I think with Lampard and Arvin's right, under a lot of pressure early on into the season, we expected that. You spend money, you got to expect that. But where he really lacks for me, and what he's shown, is that I just don't think he's tactically adept right now. I think he's really struggling tactically. And there were hints of this when he was at Derby. Everyone said at Derby, this was the case. He's not there tactically. He's a good man manager, but he just doesn't cut it tactically. And I think he's getting found out a little bit here. And it's no coincidence that the 3 goal scorers that scored against West Brom were players that he had last season. It's none of the new boys that have been chipping in. It's Hudson-Odoi, it was Tammy Abraham, and it was Mason Mount. And these were the three players who, you know, have question marks over their place in the squad with all the new signings coming in.
All right. Well, Michy Batshuayi won't be available for Palace against his parent club.
Shit. Yeah. Sorry.
But we expect Bob Holmes, Mendy, the goalie, and maybe Ben Chilwell will make their league debuts. I mean, Werner got off the mark in midweek. So, looking on the bright side, I mean, they've still got some quality players there, Lampard, at his disposal, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the consolation he has is that he just has so many to choose from, and he can mix and match and hopefully still find the right formula. And then, as we mentioned there, Ziyech and Pulisic are getting close to coming back. I don't think they're quite ready, certainly not to start this weekend, but possibly a place on the bench for one of them. We haven't seen Ziyech at all, but he looked very good for Ajax the previous season. And Pulisic was the star player for Chelsea towards the end of last season, before he got injured anyway. It's not all gloom and doom. And they may yet get another player in over the weekend. And they may ship one or two out. They shipped out Ross Barkley in midweek to Aston Villa. Good for Villa. Good for Chelsea, I think, because they do have too many players in that position, attacking midfielders. They have a surfeit of those, and I wouldn't be surprised to see one or two more make the exit door. So it's going to be interesting, but I think the spotlight will be on Thiago Silva, possibly more than anyone, because he had a fairly disastrous start, didn't he?
Yeah, because Lampard will be making a statement if he doesn't pick Thiago Silva for this one. You know what I mean? Your brand new signing, yeah?
Yeah, captain and all that. No, I mean, he was just a bit lackadaisical with that. Wasn't expecting to be challenged there. He doesn't get challenged like that in the French league. You know, and
they'll all be farmers, aren't they?
Yeah, it was rather embarrassing, but you know, he didn't quite look up to the pace anyway. Apart from that, so yeah, it was always a gamble, big gamble, getting him. You know, not that they had to pay a fee for him, but they're paying a hefty wage, and they got him rather than go for someone else. Yep. So you know, I don't know if they're going to have a last-minute panic and try and find another centre-back from somewhere. But you wouldn't put anything past Chelsea. I mean, they've got the resources. But yeah, fascinating. Just another subplot in this great Premier League season. What's happening at Chelsea? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's the early kickoff on Saturday. Then Chelsea, Crystal Palace, 7:30 p.m. At 10 p.m. sees Everton taking on Brighton. It's all going swimmingly, Arvin, for Everton at the moment. James Rodriguez is slipping into that midfield and looking like quality. The only question marks is maybe injuries over Allen and Richarlison, thanks to the midweek win. But apart from that, Everton look pretty strong, don't they?
They do. And another very key part of this is I was looking at some stats. They've only lost once in the last 14 at Goodison Park. To make Goodison Park a fortress is so important to Everton. I mean, of course, there are no fans now, but when eventually fans come back, that will be a record that they will be happy to have. He's building from the back, Ross. I mean, we talk about Richarlison, we talk about James Rodriguez and Dominic Calvert, and that's great. But he's been able to also solidify a spine that works. Yes, there's some doubts about Jordan Pickford, and there have been for a while. But other than that, their centre-backs, Luka Dean at left-back, they are a team that knows how to build from the back and then let their flair players go out and express themselves. So really, against Brighton, yes, I thought Brighton was unlucky to lose to Man United due to that last-minute call, but it was what it is. Everton, right now, 100% record. I expect them to continue that.
All right. Well, I tell you what, Brighton also have a Colombian superstar. Not a lot of people know that. Craig Marias, I'm talking about Steven Alzate. Born in Camden Town, of Colombian parents. Apparently, he's got a couple of Colombian caps. The second cap he got, he wore the number 10 shirt because James Rodriguez was injured, I believe.
Yeah,
But he
it's probably the only chance he's ever going to get that.
But he started every game for Brighton this season, and he looked solid at Brighton. Let's face it, Brighton were unlucky to lose to Man United the way they did.
Yeah, he's been one of the key performers for them, but not the only one. I mean, I think, you look at Brighton and yes, they lost to Chelsea, they lost to Man United. But if you look at the performances and really analyse it, I think they've been absolutely fantastic. And, there was a big debate amongst Brighton fans themselves, when they make that decision to get rid of Houghton and bring in the inexperienced Graham Potter. But what a decision that's been. And this has been a change within the club that's been happening over a few years now. First, it was Dan Ashton that they got, to come and kind of oversee the whole, a Brighton revolution, if you want to call it. But it was the club slowly evolving. Now they've got a young, talented manager who has a philosophy. He has an identity of how Brighton are going to play. He's bought players in the right areas. I mean, we talk about Alzate, one of the standout performers, but you look at people like Trossard, who's been absolutely fantastic for them this season. You look at the back end, Tariq Lamptey, what a signing, a free transfer from Chelsea, no experience in the Premier League, bar a subs appearance. But what a performer he's been. There's even talk of Bayern Munich looking at him.
I know, yeah, Bayern.
Yeah, and he's only been at Brighton for about 9 months. It's absolutely remarkable, and you look throughout the team, and it's been you look at people like Dan Burn up from the lower leagues, Webster as well. So there have been, Ben White obviously had a standout season with Leeds, and they did everything in their power to keep him. So he's built a very good team that are playing in a very good system. He's allowing the flair players to kind of evolve. Let's not forget about Neil Mapai up front, who's been leading the line, Connolly alongside him. It's just a really good system. Now, the results maybe haven't reflected that, but I think Brighton will be more than okay. I'm targeting them for a top 10 finish.
All right, brilliant stuff. There will be goals. Everton against Brighton is a Saturday 10 p.m. kickoff. Right, on we go then to Leeds United against Manchester City. It's a Sunday midnight kickoff. Jack Harrison obviously won't be allowed to play against his parent club here. Arvin Sidhu, I'm coming to you first. I know this one's going to have a lot of goals.
Yep. In a season that's absolutely gone bonkers, I think it's 103 goals in like 28 games. Expect goals in this one. I mean, Bielsa has already come out and praised Pep on his press conference and said that his Barcelona's team was one of the best ever in history, because at that time, Bielsa was at Atletico Bilbao. It's a battle of game plans which are very similar: pressing high, dominating possession, suffocating territories. But yeah, Jack Harrison will be a miss for Leeds. He's really been one of those players that when we picked him up, there were a lot of concerns about his end product, but it's improved by leaps and bounds. And he's on another loan at Leeds, but City have agreed to sell him next season, so that bodes well for Leeds. And the funny thing is with Bielsa is that with him, lineups are not something that he would just tell you on the day. He'll tell you 2 days before the press conference. So Alioski comes in for Jack Harrison. Alioski is a dynamite player. He's an energizer bunny that goes up and down. The only concern that they will have is that Alioski doesn't have the discipline that Jack Harrison does with tracking back. So that's something that Leeds have to look out for. But yeah, as you said, expect goals in this. City still don't have a recognized striker. Both their strikers are out. But I know Bernardo Silva is back. Ruben Diaz potentially could have his debut. But I expect goals in this all around.
Yeah, Bob Holmes, speaking of Ruben Diaz, Pep Guardiola only went out and spent 65 million on Benfica's centre-back. He's only in his early 20s, so you could say maybe not the polished article. A lot's expected of him, isn't it?
It is, for that money. That's another club record fee. They've spent over £400 million on defenders alone in Pep's time, which is incredible, really. I mean, they've only spent half as much of that as that in up front and on midfielders, and yet they still can't get it right at the back. I mean, Vincent Kompany was a big loss, but Vincent Kompany hardly played, in that season when they stormed to the title and got 100 points. So I think that's been a bit sort of overemphasized, the loss of Kompany. They never had a watertight defense anyway. And this is something Pep doesn't do. I mean, even at Barcelona, although he had Puyol and Piqué at their best, they still were a little bit dodgy at the back. And he doesn't seem to bother about that. It's as if, as long as we're scoring 4 or 5 up front, it doesn't matter if we let the odd one in. Well, you can't really do that in the Premier League. I mean, he did it for 2 seasons when he had David Silva still, and Aguero was just about at his best, and everything went for them. But and teams were just overwhelmed by City's passing. But now 1 or 2 players have left, notably Silva, and Fernandinho has got older, and they're being a bit found out. Teams are no longer afraid of them. They're going at them. They're counter-attacking. City are no longer winning the ball back. They used to win the ball back very, very quickly. And that's why teams could never get at their defense until last season. And he's 36 years old. So they're not as good as they were. And to expect a young guy from the Portuguese league, Portugal produced some fantastic players. And I'm not sure that, this is going to work. He may need a season to adjust to the pace and all that. And Pep can't afford that. Not with Liverpool running away with it. He can't afford another season coming 18 points behind. So a lot is riding on this. Make no mistake about that. The fans are already sort of calling Pep a fraud and, he's not as good as he's cracked up to be. Fans have got very short memories. City played some of the best football ever seen in England for 2 seasons. And now they want Pep out, some of them anyway. I mean, that's the nature of fandom. But he is in a little bit of trouble because the other clubs have strengthened. And if he loses this to a newly promoted team, the knives are going to be out. I'm not saying they're going to sack him. No way are they going to sack him. And see that. He's becoming more and more of a mad scientist on the touchline. So what his answer is going to be with only 3 days left in the transfer window, I'm not sure. But it's going to be fascinating to watch this because it's master against pupil.
Yeah, apologies there. Bob's breaking in and out, internet connections and all that. Leeds versus Man City is a Sunday, midnight kickoff. Man United versus Spurs is Sunday, 11:30 kickoff. And Craig Marias, both clubs boosting midweek wins. Spurs even had an outing in the Europa League where they won 7-2 against Maccabi Haifa. So they may be a little bit more tired as they go into this one against Man United.
Yeah, I actually kind of feel for Spurs coming into this. The fixture schedule is absolute joke, the one that they've been handed. I mean, the amount of games that they play in such a short period of time, it's crazy. They played on, I think it was on Sunday last week, and then they played on Tuesday, then again last night, and then they're going to play Sunday again. I mean, it's going to show on the players' bodies. And Son, obviously, as we know, got injured last week. Funnily enough, after the match last night, when they asked Mourinho about Son's injury, he didn't exactly rule Son Heung-min out of the fixture, which which, you know, I mean, it could be mind games and however you want to read it.
I hope it is,
But-
because I just sold him from my fantasy football team.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
You along with a lot of others,
Exactly.
I'm sure.
Because when I saw that, I was like, huh?
Yeah. I mean, it was a half-time withdrawal as well. You know, the things that they have with the doctors and, you know, in terms of, you know, cryo and all these different, not medicines, but, you know, kind of solutions that you have to cater for football injuries and muscle injuries especially. It is amazing. It really amuses you, know, oxygen tents and chambers and all this nonsense which you've heard before. But, you know, the fact of the matter is that it actually speeds up recovery. So don't be surprised if Son Heung-min is in the squad or at the bench at the very least. Because, you know, it's a big moral booster to have one of the best players there. You know, just go back to Spurs again. You know, and I'm harping on a lot about Spurs, but, you know, Kane scored again, you know, last night, yes, against weaker opposition, but it's a big moral booster for him to score, you know, a hat-trick as well. Dele Alli's got a goal. I don't know how much that's going to, you know, work his way to Mourinho's thinking. But, you know, it's good for him that even if it was a penalty. But from United's point of view, it's a big fixture. It really is. You know, after that first opening day, or for United, opening day loss to Crystal Palace at home, you know, they're already playing catch up straight away. So it's an important game for them. It's a game where, you know, there have been doubts about Solskjaer, you know, since he's been in the job. But now, you know, he's been there for about 18 months now. So this is where the pressure really kicks in. He's had a few transfer windows. Yes, you know, there are a few more days to get a few more players in. But, you know, he's under pressure this season. He has to deliver, you know, a trophy of some sort in my eyes. Champions League is a must. A good run in there as well. And you know, there's certain players in the first 11 who haven't performed. You know, Pogba being one of them. You know, I thought he was disappointing last week against Brighton. He you know, big matches, you expect him to stand up and be counted. So it's going to be a fascinating match between both teams, not to add the rivalry that Jose Mourinho will bring to this fixture. It's going to be a blockbuster of a match.
All right, the knives will be out for Solskjaer if Jose pulls one off here. Man United versus Spurs is a Sunday 11:30 p.m. kickoff. Taking a look at Aston Villa against Liverpool. This one is your late game on Sunday, 2:15 Monday morning kickoff. This one, Aston Villa, Arvin Sidhu, have added Ross Barkley to the ranks. It's an astute signing. If you look at all the signings Villa have made, they've all been quite good, and they you know, very clever moves, and the form as well is looking good so far.
Yeah, I think honestly, Dean Smith has learned from last season where he went out and bought literally close to an entire squad. This season, they've been a bit more focused in their recruitment, and when a better time for Ross Barkley than to face his old enemy, an Evertonian boy going up against Liverpool. Early parts of the season for Villa, what worked so well for them last season was John McGinn and Grealish working in tandem. And when McGinn went off injured, a lot of part of their season last season went away because he took away that stability that they needed. John McGinn, I think, has started really this season really well. Grealish, we know, can turn it up at any time. And up front, Ollie Watkins, for me, will score goals even at this level because the boy has really, really developed over the last couple of years. So in oversense, Villa, encouraging start. Yes, they've only played 2 so far, but encouraging. Dean Smith looks to be a bit more stable this year with his buys. So it bodes well, but at home against a Liverpool squad that's rampaging right now, still a big ask on the day.
Rampaging is the right word. They scored 85 goals on the way to the title last season. They've already got 9, Bob Holmes, in 3 games this season. You'd expect a Liverpool win, but I'm thinking Villa will put up a bit of a fight here.
Yes, they did last season. It was one of those games where Liverpool were losing with about 2 minutes to go and ended up winning. You know, that was in November, I believe, and it was that sort of performance that made you think it was Liverpool's year. But actually, they were a little bit lucky. and Villa put up a very good fight. And this was when Villa were down in the bottom reaches of the league. So and now they've transformed their team. I've read where it said that Villa have won the transfer window. Well, they've certainly bought astutely. They haven't spent a huge amount of money. The most expensive recruit is Ollie Watkins at 28 million. But they've got a very good goalkeeper, Emiliano Martinez, for just 20 million from Arsenal. We all saw how good he was at the end of last season, the beginning of the restart. So I think they've done great business, but it's going to take a bit of time for them to blend in the new signings. And I wonder, although I think that Ross Barkley on loan is quite an astute signing, I just wonder whether there's room for Barkley, McGinn and Grealish in the same team, because they are all attacking midfielders, creative players, aren't they? But still, Barkley, even if he's only going to be a part-timer, I think he's a good buy, and it's certainly good for him because he wasn't getting regular starts at Chelsea. Liverpool, well, the usual team will be back this time. They only they experimented last night with a lot of fringe players. It'll be business as usual, and you would expect them to prevail. They may have to work a bit harder than usual, but they really are a class act. They came from behind against Arsenal last week, and Arsenal are a lot better side than Villa. So I would still say that this has got a Liverpool victory written all over it.
Yeah, I'm going to go even deeper than that. Craig, if you're fantasy football, you'd captain Sadio Mane. He's got 6 in 6 against Villa. He likes scoring against the villains.
Yeah, you always get these players that, have a team that they always score against or have a good record against. I remember it was Wayne Rooney against Newcastle, every single time. But, I just feel, just touching on what Bob said, what I really like about this Villa side and what has changed from last season is the defensive aspect. And now we know John Terry is one of the assistant managers. How much of influence he's had on that back line, I'm not so sure. But since post-lockdown, they've done absolutely fantastically from a defensive point of view, which was their problem, prior to the season break last year. So, they've shored that up. Like Bob said, got a very good goalkeeper in now. And they're starting to look collectively as a really solid outfit at the back. So I don't know if this is a game that you'd want to captain either Salah or Mane, because you look around this weekend and a few tasty fixtures about you talk about Kevin De Bruyne and City versus Leeds. That's going to be a very open game. As Arvin said, you're going to expect goals there. Bielsa's not one that's going to sit back, neither is Guardiola. So you've got 2 attacking teams there. There's going to be a lot of goals in there. So if you have Sterling or De Bruyne, they should be top of your list. Let's not forget, Arsenal go to Sheffield, have Sheffield United at home as well. That's going to be a very tasty picture. Sheffield United haven't started well. That's also another option. Lacazette's been in form since the season has started as well. So there are a few options out there. Timo Werner against Crystal Palace if he plays. And we can't forget Raul Jimenez against a very poor Fulham side. So you can look at that. You can look at the Liverpool Aston Villa game and lick your lips and fancy putting the armband on either Salah or Mane. But I'd have a look around if I were you, and maybe stay away from that and maybe focus more on the City assets that you have.
Yeah, leave it on Son if I were you. Leicester City versus West Ham United is a Sunday 7 p.m. kickoff. It's a dinner time game. Foxes will be on cloud 9 after that sensational 5-2 win over Man City last weekend, Craig Marias. David Moyes is still going to be working from home, managing from home. Yeah, it's going to be a big ask, this one. No matter how speedy Moyes' laptop is.
Yeah, you say that, Ross, but I mean, a 4-0 win against Wolves last week. I mean, you just can't ignore that. And I've got to say, you know, the signs have been there. I watched the game against Arsenal. I didn't think they were that bad. I thought Arsenal were very lucky to come away with a victory there. You know, West Ham hit the bar as well. I thought they were the better team on the night, but didn't come out with the result that they wanted. But then they go and do that to Wolves, and that's saying something. You know, you don't. I mean, you can't. It's not a normal performance to put 4 past Wolves and have Wolves not even reply to that. You know, it's just quite unheard of. You know, you don't even see the big teams doing that. So it was a very good performance, probably helped by the fact that Moyes wasn't even there, which says something. I think it was Alan Irvine that took charge, so the board might want to look at that a little bit. But it was the encouraging performances of people like Jared Bowen, you know, who really impressed me. Thomas Souček, who post restart, you know, coming on the back of last season, has been absolutely fantastic for them. What a signing he's been. And they're in the transfer market for a few more players. I'm not sure they'll get them by Sunday. I think they've got a right back that's on his way over. I think Souček's mate as well. And they're still out, I think, for a centre back, which I think they badly need. But the main thing for them is keeping hold of Declan Rice. Now, there have been rumours of a bid from Chelsea that's incoming. Whether that's true or whether they'll get it done in this transfer window remains to be seen. I think they've left it maybe a little bit too late. And I don't think West Ham will be selling someone like him this late on in the transfer window. But you know, you can't ignore Leicester's performance last week as well, saying that, you know, absolutely fantastic. Maddison's coming back into the squad. He scored an absolute screamer off the bench last week. He's a massive, massive player for them. Harvey Barnes just getting into the England squad. He's going to be full of confidence. Vardy with a hat-trick last week. You know, they say he's getting old, but he, you know, plays even younger than his years. This is going to be a really good match. You know, funnily enough, Ross, I can't call it. I really can't. I think, you know, West Ham have a lot to be encouraged by from that performance against Wolves. And if they play to their full potential, if they can keep it tight at the back, and if on the break, you know, they can, you know, your Antonios, your Bowens and all that can hit you on the break. You know, I don't think it'll be an easy game for Leicester. Don't be surprised if there is a surprise.
All right. Well said, that one. Jamie Vardy apparently is a bit of a worry. He's going to have his hip issue assessed before kickoff. Apart from that, Leicester look to be in full strength. Johnny Evans and Dennis Pratt may actually return to the side. As far as West Ham are concerned, Ryan Fredericks, Issa Diop, Josh Cullen, all set to miss the game. Jared Bowen is in good form. That one is a Sunday 7 p.m. kickoff. Leicester City versus West Ham United. Arsenal take on Sheffield United Sunday 9 p.m. Bob Holmes, Mikel Arteta has acknowledged that Arsenal still has a long way to go, but they're on the right track. They had a penalty shootout win in midweek against Liverpool, part 2 of their Liverpool meetings, but they're going along nicely here. And there's also talk of maybe adding before the window shuts.
Yeah. I think the big plus for Arsenal is the defence. That was the Achilles heel under Arsene Wenger the last couple of years. And throughout Unai Emery's reign, they were in chaos, basically, at the back. They didn't know their backside from their elbow, to put it bluntly. And with largely the same plot. And the transformation in Xhaka is incredible. And some of the guys that impressed in the early days of Emery's reign, such as Torreira, who became a bit of a cult figure initially, now they're talking about shipping him out. He can't get in the side because he's basically gone for youth, and he's got a lot of very good young players. I mean. I think belatedly Gareth Southgate has recognised Saka. I think the problem is they don't know what his best position is. ostensibly he's described as a left wing back, but he could play midfield. He's a classic modern wing back in that he catches the eye by attacking rather more than defending. But he's very, very versatile and very talented. I think he's a top draw player. And Arteta has been using him sparingly, such as the luxury he has. And now he's got Leno in top form in goal. Rob Holding has been playing well. He was always considered a bit of a questionable signing, even right at the beginning, and they had his injury problems. But he's coming good. But they're organised. And then the attack has not been firing on all cylinders. But when you look at it, Aubameyang and Lacazette, they're pretty lethal. And Pepe, I mean, he's not delivered. He's not been up to anywhere near what you'd expect for a £72 million player. But he does have something. And I think Arteta is persisting with him, hoping to get the best out of him. He does have a talent in there, but it's whether he can apply it or not. So Arsenal are looking good. I think they can defend now, and they've got the guys who can get the goals up front. So they are looking pretty solid, and I can only see a comfortable win for the Gunners this weekend.
Quick word about Sheffield United, Arvin. Second season syndrome. They haven't scored this season yet. Last season, their top scorer was Lys Mousset, who got 6 goals. He's had a toe operation. He hasn't even returned to training yet. So it is doom and gloom a little bit there for Sheffield.
It is, and the go forward thing earlier, it's a point that the tactics that Chris Wilder implements has to be different slightly. I mean, his overlapping centre backs to a certain point will get found out. When they played Leeds last week, John Lundstrom was their most attacking threat, and that is saying something. When you're expecting John Lundstrom to try and get you the goals, that's when you've got serious concerns. Ethan Ampadu has come in. He provided a bit of stability at the back. I think there's not much concerns about them losing Dean Henderson because Aaron Ramsdale is a good goalkeeper and he kept them in the game last week with some good saves. But Chris Wilder does have a lot of work to do. It's just from a concerning point, their creativity is so lacking in that team. And based on the first few games of the season, a lot of work needs to be done in that department if Chris Wilder is going to kind of creep them out of the situation that they're in right now.
All right, Arsenal, Sheffield United, Sunday, 9 p.m. kickoff. Elsewhere, you've got Newcastle against Burnley, Sunday, 3 a.m. This one is a weird one, Craig. Quick word about that one. Burnley not having it all their own way. Sean Dyche, in fact, came out and said, we need to sign players. I don't think I've ever seen Burnley sign a player.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to worry when your star signing is, what's his name?
You see, you can't even remember.
When you can't think of him.
Exactly.
Dale Stevens. There you go. You got to worry when your star signing of the summer is Dale Stevens from Brighton. And I do feel for him, you know, because I like Burnley as a club. I think they're good. You know, they don't go splashing silly cash, silly money about. And you look at it and you got to feel for Burnley. I've looked at their bench and, you know, it's full of youngsters in there. You know, they're struggling to get bodies out there. Obviously, they've had a few injuries. Tarkowski has been injured. He's slowly coming back to fitness. Should be okay for the weekend. But also linked with a move away, with West Ham reportedly making a 50 million or making a bid for him, but Burnley holding out for 50 million. If they were to lose him, I actually do think Burnley are in serious trouble. Yeah. I think Ashley Barnes is still out. Chris Wood has come back into it. So they have a lot of injuries as well, let's not forget. But Sean Dyche needs to get into the transfer market and he needs to sign players really soon. You know, even if he has to use the loan market, he needs bodies in because, you know, it's okay having a core of senior players, but you need... you need players that's going to keep you in the Premier League, and Burnley, I don't think, can afford to drop down into the Championship, and that is the big worry for me. But I'm a big fan of Sean Dyche. Somehow he always manages to get the job done. You know, however he does it, whether it's playing 11 at the back to try to shut up shop. which he'll do. I mean, he is that type of manager that will do it if he needs to. So I think I don't worry about Burnley too much in terms of staying in the Premier League, but I worry about them in terms of building on what they've achieved over the last few years.
All right, Newcastle Burnley, 3 o'clock kickoff on Sunday. Southampton West Brom is Sunday 7 p.m. Wolves against Fulham. Just a quick word, Fulham have signed Ademola Lookman from RB Leipzig on loan. So that one could be a coup. He didn't get much of a run out, but he's a promising player. That's it. That's your football for the weekend. Enjoy it. Spot you next week.